Now that we've reviewed the purchase order process, let's talk about what to do when ordered items arrive at the library and need to be received and invoiced. Polaris offers multiple ways to receive materials to accommodate various ordering and receiving workflows. In this video, we'll talk about how to receive a complete purchase order, how to receive an incomplete purchase order, and how to receive and invoice materials via rapid receipt. Methods for receiving EDI materials will be reviewed in a separate video. To receive an entire purchase order when all items on the purchase have arrived in the same shipment, open the purchase order, select the Tools menu, and click Receive. A message will pop up asking if you want to receive the entire order. Click OK to confirm that you want to receive all copies listed in the PO. If there are hold requests for any title in the purchase order, a message will inform you that there are holds on a title or titles, so those items can be processed first. Keep in mind that this alert includes holds placed by any CCS patron, not necessarily your own patron. You'll know the order was received when Order was received successfully appears in the status bar at the bottom of the PO. Now that you've received all items on the PO, you can add them all to a new invoice. To do this, click the Tools menu and select Copy Lines to. Select Invoice. You can copy the titles to a new invoice or add them to an existing invoice. If you'd like to add to an existing invoice, click on the Find button to search for and select an existing invoice. Check the New box to add the titles to a new invoice. The new invoice dialog box will appear. Type the invoice number in the box, along with the suffix if applicable. The current date will appear in the invoice date field, but you can change this date to match what exists on the paper invoice if you'd like. You can type in the date or click the calendar icon to select the date from the calendar. By default, the library that appears in the owner box is the library in the PO record. Change if needed. The supplier is also being pulled from the PO. If this needs to be changed, click the Find button to search for and select a different vendor. Click OK when finished editing. You'll be asked to confirm that you'd like to continue creating the invoice. Click OK. We'll talk more about invoicing in the next lesson, so let's go back to receiving. What happens if you only partially receive a PO? Let's walk through this process together. To partially receive a purchase order, open the Purchase Order Workform and navigate to the Purchase Order Line Item tab. Select the line items you want to receive, right-click, and select Receive from the menu. A dialog box will open, asking if you want to receive the selected items. Click OK to receive. Once the items have been received, you can then right-click the item, select Copy To, and copy the items to a new or existing invoice. Now, what if your line item segment contains 2 copies, but you only received 1? You can partially receive a segment of a line item. Open the Purchase Order Line Item Workform for the line you want to partially receive. Click the Receive Segment button or right-click the segment and click Receive. The line item segment receiving dialog box opens. Enter the quantity you received in this shipment and click OK. The segment will be split out, with one segment showing the quantity received and the other showing the quantity still on order. Now note that if the purchase order line item segment is already linked to an invoice line item, you will not be able to split the receipt of the line item. You can use the Polaris Rapid Receipt function to both add items to an invoice and receive them at the same time. For rapid receipt, you'll start from an invoice rather than the purchase order. Let's walk through how to create a new invoice. From the toolbar, select the New icon. In the list of new objects, select Invoice. When the New Invoice dialog box opens, complete the pertinent information, including invoice number and suffix, supplier information, date, and more. Save the invoice when finished. Next, click the Rapid Receipt icon from the toolbar. The Rapid Receipt dialog box will open. Depending on what information you have in hand, type in the purchase order line item ID number, the ISBN or ISSN, or the title. Using the purchase order line item ID is the easiest way to add line items to the invoice because that number is unique and will allow you to add the exact line item to your invoice. Using ISBN or title could bring up multiple line items to choose from. Here's an example. If I type my line item ID into the line item ID field and click enter, a single match is found. Now I'm going to click clear to remove this line item. If I type that corresponding ISBN rather than the purchase order line item ID, the find tool will open. Polaris has found multiple line items that match this ISBN. When this happens, you'll need to find the correct line item in the list and double-click to select. To save the line item to your invoice and receive it at the same time, click the Save Next button. If there are hold requests for the title, a message will pop up to let you know. You can continue to rapid receive additional line items or click Close if you're finished. Now that you're a receiving expert, move on to the next lesson to learn more about invoicing. If you have questions about the content of this video, please email CCS staff at help@ccslib.org.